Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We're hardly seeing anyone anyways, so I don't know what else you're expecting. Like, the blood has actually drained out of my body.
Dr. Henry tells us to do more, but what more can we do? Also,
probably one of the most despicable things that I've seen in a long time.
Growing backlash against the Vancouver couple who traveled to the Yukon to get vaccinated. And
they're not all alone. So it's not just the people from Punjab and India supporting them, it's people all over the world supporting them.
Farmer protests in India's capital turn violent and deadly.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
good evening and thanks for joining us. The COVID-19 virus continues to kill people in our province, and there's a shortage of vaccine.
But BC's top doctor wants us all to do more to stop the spread. As Susanna De Silva reports, for many, Dr. Henry's plea isn't sitting well.
How many times must a man use his ears?
People are out enjoying a sunny day, trying to forget the things they aren't doing.
Traveling, going to see family out in Asia or Europe.
My granddaughters, oh, no, we want to hug and kiss you, we can't. So we have to keep our, I can see them, but I have to keep my distance. It's painful.
I just want to hang out with my friends in a big group.
65th birthday today, and we're not having a party. This is it.
And so when Dr. Bonnie Henry said this yesterday,
for the next 2 weeks, I am asking you to do more.
Many aren't sure what more would be.
I don't see how we could personally be doing more because we're very careful and we pay very close attention to the rules.
We're hardly seeing anyone anyways, so I don't know what else you're expecting. Like, the blood has actually drained out of my body.
At a moment when we're being asked individually to do more, that the government isn't coming to the table and saying, here's how we're going to also do more.
The leader of BC's Green Party says the government needs to step in to improve safety in schools, look more closely at rules around travel both nationally and internationally, and provide better data telling people where transmission is happening.
Not, to undermine people's privacy, but other provinces have gone much, much further with data collection and providing that data as a way to explain what they're asking of people.
And some worry Dr. Henry's message may backfire.
Right message, wrong way of delivering it. But we're in a state of pandemic fatigue right now. They think they're doing all they possibly can. Some people are feeling apathetic. Some people are feeling this low-grade depression and irritability. You imagine that audience and then you tell them, you need to do more.
He says trying to engage the groups that are seeing transmission directly and being as specific as possible are key.
If we need to do more, please tell us what we need to do and how we might need to do it.
And while most here don't want to see more rules, some worry it may be the only answer.
I know Bonnie Henry doesn't like to have that strong hand and come down like enforcement, but it might be necessary because there are people who don't listen.
Well, the answer, my friend, blowed in the wind.
So far, Dr. Henry has no plans to change the rules, but like everything else, that could change quickly. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
And BC health officials are reporting 14 more COVID-19 deaths today. Our death toll now at 1,168. 407 people have since tested positive since Tuesday. Almost 6,500 people are undergoing self-isolation and being actively monitored. The number of hospitalized patients is now at 313, with 71 in intensive care. Active cases are nearing 4,300. So far, more than 122,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine have been administered in BC. Just over 4,100 are second doses.
And COVID-19 exposure warnings have been listed for 3 Whistler businesses. An infectious person has frequented the Longhorn Saloon on January 16th to the 25th, High's Steakhouse on the 13th, 15th, and 16th, and L Furniture Warehouse on January 12th, and then again from the 14th to the 21st. Anyone who has gone into these restaurants and experiences symptoms, however mild, should call a family doctor or 811, seek testing, and self-isolate. Cowichan tribes members are mourning the death of a beloved elder, the first death in the community related to the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. Members of the Cowichan tribes have now been sheltering in place for 4 weeks. The community of 5,000 living isolated from one another, and now a member who had been in hospital for 10 days battling the virus died yesterday.
Scary because, you know, we have members that are sick, they're hospitalized, and, you know, we don't know the condition that they're in until, you know, we find out if they made it or, you know, if not.
The most recent data revealed 96 cases in the community back on January 14th. The tribes stopped sharing positive case counts publicly due to racism targeted at its members. Those within the community are hopeful their hard work to contain the spread of the virus will soon pay off. Well, despicable. That's just one word provincial leaders are using about the BC couple accused of jumping the COVID vaccine queue by flying to the Yukon.
Yeah, the story has made international headlines, and now First Nations leaders in that remote community say the pair needs to be punished.
Dan Burrett joins us live with more. Dan, this story has angered a lot of people.
From Beaver Creek to Victoria and places in between, Anita and Mike, our colleagues at CBC North first brought us the story of Rodney and Ekaterina Baker, the now former head of the Great Canadian Gaming Corporation, and his wife, an actor, are accused of breaking Yukon's COVID-19 rules and chartering a plane to Beaver Creek to receive doses of the Moderna vaccine. Territory officials say the pair went to a mobile vaccination clinic and claimed they were new workers at a local motel. Each of them has been charged with 2 counts of failing to self-isolate and failing to adhere to entry declarations. Yesterday, Dr. Bonnie Henry said the Bakers ought to be ashamed of themselves, and BC's public safety minister is shaking his head.
Probably one of the most despicable things that I've seen in a long time. It shows a complete lack of any sort of ethical or moral compass on people who would do such a thing. As we've also seen, they have paid a pretty high price, losing a $10 million a year job, as they should.
Rodney Baker stepped down as the CEO of Great Canadian Gaming on Sunday. He and his wife could be fined up to $500, spend 6 months in jail, or both. Members of the White River First Nation, whose government office is in Beaver Creek, says incarceration is a just penalty here.
We feel as the First Nation that there needs to be some prison time. There needs to be an actual sentence against this, not simply a fine. Even if the fine was $50,000, it's not enough.
Others, meanwhile, are appalled the couple took a vaccine that could have gone to someone much more vulnerable. Brenda Brophy's mother is 101 and still waiting for a COVID shot.
I don't understand how people think that have the privilege to even be able to do something like this, why they would just because you can. I mean, all I can think is, like, what's wrong with you? You took a vaccination away from potentially an Indigenous elder in a remote community. And I worry even more to think how many people actually think like this and would do this. I mean, you're taking it away from someone like my mom.
Yeah, fair point, Dan. And now that the Bakers have gotten a first dose of a COVID vaccine, the question is, what about their second?
Essentially, the province says they will not get that second dose ahead of anyone else, even now that they've gotten a first. In a statement today, the health ministry said there's no room in BC's vaccination plan, quote, for people who deliberately put vulnerable populations at risk in order to receive their vaccine before the start of their eligibility group. And the system will not allow people to book an appointment until their age group can pre-register. Mike, Anita?
Dan Burrett live for us tonight. Thanks, Dan. And provincial researchers are sounding the alarm over the possible BC impact of the coronavirus variant first detected in the UK. Their modeling shows a potential massive spike in COVID cases in March, given the variant's higher transmission rate. This graph shows what could happen if provincial restrictions stay as they are. Later this hour, Mike speaks with a member of BC's COVID modeling on how bad it could get and what can be done to stop it.
At least one person is dead. Many more are injured after protests in India turned violent.
Thousands of farmers, furious over government policies, stormed barricades and clashed with police in New Delhi. It's a major escalation in a protest that has been going on for months.
Greg Rasmussen has more on the violence and the support for the farmers here.
The streets erupted in running battles, with farmers and their supporters pitted against riot police. At one point, they tore down barricades and occupied the Red Fort, a 380-year-old historical site in New Delhi. For 2 months now, thousands of farmers have been encamped in the area, fighting against laws introduced last year deregulating parts of the country's huge agricultural sector. We will not go to our homes. We will not go anywhere until the laws are repealed, whatever happens.
No farmers!
No food!
In snowy Toronto, a crowd gathered in support.
Well, the weather is not on our side, but the commitment here certainly is that all these individuals who are praying in hopes of a better future for their families back in India.
This gathering in New York was just one of many where people turned out in opposition to India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's new farm policies. Modi says the changes will allow farmers to prosper in a freer market, but millions of small landholders fear the loss of subsidies will wipe them out.
We will continue to support the farmers. It's not just the people from Punjab and India supporting them, it's people all over the world supporting them.
But our people, our families that are there, they're the ones that happen to be sitting in the Capitol, going into these protests.
Many at today's protest have close connections to those on India's farms.
The farmers themselves have camped out for 2 months now, and they're ready with 6 months to a year. They're not going anywhere. So this is not going to end the way the Indian government thought it was going to.
After months of protests and now street battles, the question is whether demonstrations like this one here and around the world will make a difference. Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Vancouver.
A Surrey woman's truck was stolen last week, and with it, 2 urns that contain the remains of her father and her stillborn son. Alicia Fagerlund tells CBC News the truck was stolen January 12th while parked at a Petro-Canada gas station on 128th and King George Boulevard. She says she left the vehicle running, but it had not locked properly. The vehicle also contained her keys and IDs alongside the urns. Fagerlund says she was planning to spread the ashes the next day on the 13th, her son's initial due date.
And on Tuesday night, the 12th, my truck gets stolen. And I'm just like, it just is really hard for me to bear.
Anyone with information is asked to contact Surrey RCMP.
The family of a rancher missing in BC's southern interior is pleading for information on the 2nd anniversary of the man's disappearance. 32-year-old Ben Tyner went missing near Merritt 2 years ago.
To have to live with Ben's loss is the most painful, excruciating experience ever. The loss we feel is immeasurable. As the 2nd anniversary of Ben's disappearance approaches, we continue to have unanswered questions. We're constantly praying that someone who knows something will come forward.
Tyner was last seen riding out on horseback, possibly going to search for lost cattle at the ranch he was working at. 2 days later, Tyner's saddled horse was found wandering on a logging road with no trace of its rider. The family has put up a $15,000 reward for information that leads to finding their son. Police say they believe Tyner was likely the victim of a homicide. Anyone with information is asked to call the RCMP's Southeast District Detachment. A suspect has been arrested after a hit-and-run last night that left a 17-year-old girl unconscious in North Vancouver. RCMP are asking for witnesses to come forward and help gather any evidence they can for the investigation.
The person did not turn themselves into the police detachment here. As far as how we were able to locate the person that we ultimately arrested in this last night, we're not able to say too much about those details of the investigation because the investigation is still ongoing, and what we don't want to do is taint any additional witnesses by providing information to the public that might ultimately down the road harm the potential for a criminal charge and presenting the proper evidence to court.
Police have released the suspect from custody pending further investigation. The girl is still in hospital in critical condition. Investigators are hoping to gather more data to figure out what happened. The girl was hit around 10:15 last night in the area of Keith Road East and St. Andrews Avenue. The car may have also been seen near Lynn Valley Road and the Safeway parking lot at Lynn Valley Center after 10:15. Again, anyone with information, you're asked to call the number on your screen. Police are also looking for any related dash cam or surveillance video and asking people to check their recordings. Well, there's a new online tool to help you calculate your ICBC premium under the new NoFault Insurance system that launches this spring. You'll just need to input your license information and license plate.
And if you're eligible, it will also display a refund amount of the difference between your current auto plan coverage and the new lower cost enhanced care coverage.
The refund is dependent on a driver's renewal date. Refunds will be issued between May and July after enhanced care coverage comes into effect. The province claims the new system will save people as much as 20% or about $400 per year for a single driver. The province says the NoFault insurance system is designed to divert hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees every year to help people who are hurt in crashes.
Okay, there's no doubt it's been a cold winter week in Vancouver, relatively speaking. On Friday, it got down to nearly -5 overnight, especially frigid, though, for the city's homeless people.
As Megan Batchelor explains, a local private members lodge on Vancouver's west side has partnered with the homeless men to provide warmth for some of the city's most vulnerable.
Stanley Woodvine has been living on the streets since 2004. For him, these are the kind of weeks that make being homeless in Vancouver extra hard.
The cold, basically, as anybody knows, it just penetrates you, and it is a physical thing. And if you cannot, for love or money, get away from it, well, then that becomes a problem. Because then you could sort of go, I'm just a little bit trapped.
And he wrote about that trapped feeling on his blog last winter. The writing caught the eye of an Oddfellows member who started the process of using the private members' lodge as an extreme weather shelter with help from the city of Vancouver. It took a year, but the drop-in center is open this week for up to 10 people needing shelter.
Homelessness is going on now, along with the pandemic and along with, opioid crisis. These things are all happening. So we feel we can do something, and we are doing it. So we're happy about that.
Since it opened on Friday, there's been about a handful of people coming each night, and tomorrow is the last night that they're welcoming people here. But there are already plans in place whenever that next cold snap happens.
And then maybe down the line, we might have cots instead of mats, but it's all a clean thing. But yeah, we're definitely on for this again.
The lodge is on Vancouver's west side, an area Woodvine says is underserved when it comes to shelter space. This space will be used when the weather dips below -5. For now, it doesn't accommodate carts or animals, but Woodvine is encouraged by this first step.
It's really important to have connection points like this for homeless people so that they can actually see physical evidence that society is not leaving them behind.
Megan Batchelor, CBC News, Vancouver.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joining us now. Our first check of the forecast. As I said, relatively chilly for Vancouver over the last little while. But I'm not mistaken, that was the sun that actually came out today for a little bit?
You were not wrong, Mike. That was the sun. Yeah, we saw a few breaks in the sky today as we sat between spinning lows. The next system, though, is already moving across the island. I think we've seen our coldest night so far this week. We're going to sort of hover around the 1 to 2 degree range for the next couple of nights. Let me show you what it feels like out there right now. Here's a look at the current temperatures. It's still chilly. Don't let that 5 at YVR fool you. Even up a couple 100 meters, temperatures are getting close to the freezing mark already tonight. And that goes for the island as well, where we are hitting freezing. Look at the radar right now. Snow coming down in the purple for higher elevations of the island. That's the top end of a swirling low that will skim Metro Vancouver overnight tonight into tomorrow. The bigger picture is that it is going to be sinking south of us. It's just sitting off our coast right now, but as it tracks inland, look for some precip to start across Metro Vancouver. I'm thinking closer to 11 p.m. or the midnight hour. As I take you through this forecast model, you can see showing some blues and purples for Metro Vancouver. I think this is a higher elevation story for tonight, but a couple centimeters for even places like North Surrey, SFU, North Shore through tomorrow morning. That will line up with the morning commute. So more details coming up.
All right. Thanks very much, Joe. Well, veterinarians in BC say they're getting overwhelmed. It's due to the COVID-19 safety measures. Some vets say they aren't able to see as many patients as they would in a normal day. Add to that an influx of new clients looking for a vet as many people adopted pets during the pandemic.
Have a wait list of 100 pets that we're still waiting to try to get in just for spay and neuter, as there is a major professional shortage and every vet hospital feels it.
Boulay says veterinarians are doing their best to keep up with demand, but the shortage is an issue across the country. I think I know about 4 or 5 people who got little puppies during the pandemic, so...
No, we didn't.
You already have your little,
yes,
not a puppy anymore.
Max the Doxy is quite enough. But you know what? The vets are doing a great job in the pandemic here, seeing patients as they go forward. It's a big challenge for sure.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Translink is going electric with the purchase of 15 new zero-emission buses. The all-battery electric bus line in Metro Vancouver will be up and running in 2022. The 100 bus route that runs from New West through Burnaby and South Vancouver will become the first all-battery electric route in the region. A $16 million federal gas fund was used to purchase the new fleet of battery buses from manufacturer Nova Bus out of Quebec. Translink anticipates an annual savings of $40,000 per bus in fuel cost, reduced maintenance, and a much quieter ride.
Grocery store workers quickly became essential to our survival during this pandemic. Now, a grocery store in the island has paid it forward. The pandemic pay top-up for employees at Quality Foods will now become permanent. The $2 premium will be added onto their pay, and that increase impacts about 1,200 workers. Grocery store staff say they are relieved and grateful as they've worked through the anxiety and stress of the pandemic. Quality Foods says it normally sees a 2% growth per year, but this year it's in the double digits, and that has helped paying the increase in wages for employees.
Just a reminder, you can also watch our newscasts live on CBC Gem.
CBC Vancouver also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Just days after her historic resignation, a CBC News exclusive report details shocking allegations against ex-Governor General Julie Payette. That's coming up. Once again, thank you for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream.
Yeah, with some group physical activities like fitness classes still shut down in many parts of the country by COVID orders, many Calgarians, well, they're going a little stir-crazy.
Probably some British Columbians, too. So perhaps no surprise, a local ski club is seeing a boom in business this winter. CBC video producer Justin Pinnell put this together for us.
Foothills Nordic Ski Club itself has seen a 22% increase in participation this year. All of its programs are sold out and have wait lists, so that's been an incredible number. I think with COVID, this cross-country skiing is one sport that people can do where they can be outside, spaced individually, and enjoying some outdoor recreation. Because it's open to the public at any time to come skiing, the Foothills Nordic Ski Club this year has added extra access points to the golf course with increased signage so that we can spread people out so we don't get such congregation numbers.
We have to remember that all activities where we gather with other people always increase the risk of exposure. So although outdoor activities in small groups would be considered very low risk, they're not risk-free. And what we've been learning is that often if there is viral transmission or somebody catching the virus, it has to do with things associated with the activity. So maybe not, for example, skiing per se, but gathering for a coffee after skiing or gathering in the parking lot and chatting for a while after a day of skiing is really where that risk goes up. So currently in Alberta, we're encouraging some outdoor activities, but we are asking people to remain in small groups, 10 or under, and to try and maintain those general simple guidelines of wearing a mask when you can't maintain a distance and trying to keep the 2 meters apart. When you are within that 2 meters or close together, for example, passing during some sort of vigorous activity, there is that increased risk. Outside of the 2 meters, the droplets don't go very far. There may be a small aerosol component, but that is rapidly dispersed in outdoor environments.
I love being outdoors and being able to move my body, and that definitely when times feel tough or you're sort of in a dark place with COVID, just getting outside, moving your body, gliding on the snow, which is like a dance to me. Out here in the sunshine, hearing the chickadees just makes you feel so much better. I think that having a mental outlet for people right now is really good. So this physical activity, I think, really helps with people's mental well-being.
Yeah, it does. No beer league hockey for a lot of us for a long time, but, which is disappointing. You went for a workout today, though? I did, and it's, I have to say, I feel pretty safe. They've got us in individual boxes, just a few people per session. You've got a giant box, really, and you've got more than 6 feet apart and a big garage door open. So do what we can to stay safe and stay active. It's important for mental health. So not the high-intensity stuff? Not the high-intensity stuff. I wish. I'm waiting for that to come back. Okay, stay with us. Back in just a couple of seconds. More details on the controversy about former Governor General Julie Payette. Until then, enjoy the view. A CBC News exclusive tonight brings us details of what Julie Payette's former staff reported they endured while working for the Governor General. Allegations not only of verbal harassment, but of physical harassment as well. Ashley Burke tells us this comes just days after Payette resigned in the wake of a scathing report claiming she created a toxic workplace environment.
In public, it was a job filled with ceremony and tradition, but behind closed doors, allegations of a darker side.
And this report had some disturbing conclusions, and those conversations led the Governor General to conclude that she should offer her resignation.
They will bully you until you either agree or leave.
Since July, CBC News has been reporting on allegations from former Rideau Hall staff and public servants claiming Julie Payette belittled, berated, and publicly humiliated employees. Her second-in-command, Assunta De Lorenzo, was also accused of bullying staff. Now multiple sources say there were instances where Payette's anger turned into unwanted physical contact, and some felt threatened. Sources say those details are included in testimony in the Workplace Review Report. Payette received a copy last week. Days later, she resigned, saying everyone has a right to a healthy and safe work environment at all times and under all circumstances. Tensions have arisen at Rideau Hall over the past few months, and for that, I am sorry. We all experience things differently, but we should always strive to do better and be attentive to one another's perceptions. Now, the report is still private, but the government intends to make it public and will be releasing a redacted version of the report through access to information laws. Rideau Hall says that it hasn't seen the report, so it can't comment on it. The Prime Minister's office directed us to the Privy Council office, and it says that in order to maintain its impartiality, that it cannot comment on specifics of this report, but did say that everyone deserves a safe and healthy environment and that the government takes this very seriously.
That's the CBC's Ashley Burke reporting from Ottawa tonight. Well, the Prime Minister trying to assure Canadians on two fronts today. He says Ottawa will be able to keep up with the demands to vaccinate the population. That's despite the current disruption in supply. As Hannah Thibodeau explains, the government plans on doing more to keep out the coronavirus as well by imposing more travel restrictions.
In a week where no COVID-19 vaccines are being delivered, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tried to assure Canadians there wouldn't be a further pinch on supply.
We are very much continuing to be on track for receiving our full doses of vaccines.
This despite a new threat from the European Union. It could limit the export of vaccines made there to ensure supply for its citizens first. All of Canada's current vaccines, Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna, are manufactured in Europe. And the PM couldn't guarantee that the EU won't block exports to Canada.
We will continue to work closely with Europe to ensure that we are receiving the vaccines that we have signed for, that we are due.
While the PM is trying to ensure vaccine and other essential goods keep entering Canada, he warns travelers may face more restrictions at the borders soon. This as premiers continue to push the federal government to do more to prevent another surge, including banning flights from countries where more transmissible strains are being detected, and new measures for anyone who does enter the country.
I can't figure out for the life of me why we aren't testing every single person that comes through this airport, and for that, Ottawa as well, and the land crossings as well.
And I repeat our demand to Mr. Trudeau, it's time to act. We can either ban non-essential travels or isolate travelers in hotels.
The Prime Minister isn't saying what new travel measures will be put in place, only to expect the announcement any day. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
Alarming projections about the COVID-19 variants in our province. Just ahead, what a BC team says will have to happen if they continue to spread.
Her name is Katie Lang. That's with a small lowercase k and d. She's a country singer-songwriter, and late last year she did her first Canadian tour. Lang was a hit, but Katie is not a conventional country performer, as Fred Causey discovered.
Round and around and around and around and around. Oh, stop the world and let me off. I'm tired of going around and round.
Some people have labeled Katie Lang's music cowpunk, a cross between punk and country. But she says it isn't so. Only the haircut is punk. The heart is pure country. When she sings a Patsy Cline song, she means it.
Can't you see? You no longer care for me. I lost the one.
I definitely idolize Patsy Cline. The thing is that I believe you become things that inspire you. And Patsy Cline has inspired me. So I become her at times on stage. And she is working through me. I can feel her presence when I sing her songs.
Oh, stop the world and let me on. Round and around. I'm tired of going around. Round and around and around and around and around. I played the game of love and round and around and around and around and around. So stop the world and let me on.
Katie Lang says she's not making fun of country music, but she sure has fun with it.
I do see the humor in it. I do see the humor in it. I see the humor in a song that goes D-I-V-O-R-C. You know, like that is funny, but it's real. There's people out there that are going through D-I-V-O-R-Cs. And their little J-O-E is having problems understanding it.
Even though she sings a lot of country music, she doesn't feel limited by it.
Because I look in my audience and I look on the dance floor and there's people there from 60 years old to really hardcore people, you know, with funny hair. And I'm going, well, this is what I really aspired to do, was to break the barriers.
Oh yeah, it's energy and it's great. She's great to dance to.
Awesome. Amazing.
If you didn't see her, you would think she looked different than she does.
When my baby embraces me, doesn't know what it does to me.
Katie Lang is in Vancouver and in performance at the Commodore Ballroom on Saturday night. Next week, you can see her at Club Soda.
Some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
I know people are getting frustrated. I mean, I've seen some of my friends now kind of given up.
Dr. Bonnie Henry is asking you to do more to stop the spread of COVID-19. But that message seems to have hit home for many who are asking, what more can we do? BC's Green Party leader is questioning whether Dr. Henry's advice is helpful and says she needs to bring in more concrete rules.
Shows a complete lack of any sort of ethical or moral compass on people who would do such a thing. And As we've also seen, they have paid a pretty high price, losing a $10 million a year job, as they should.
Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth calling the actions of a Vancouver couple accused of jumping the COVID vaccine queue by flying to Yukon despicable. And the backlash is growing. The story has made international headlines, and now First Nations leaders in the Yukon and the remote community of the Yukon where they lied to get the shot say the pair needs to be punished.
And no queue jumping here. More than 122,000 doses of a COVID-19 vaccine have now been administered in BC. Just over 4,100 are second doses. BC health officials are reporting 14 more deaths and 407 new cases today. Hospitalizations are dropping. 313 people are in hospital, 71 of those patients in intensive care.
And Canadian health officials are worried and warning about a new and growing pandemic danger. At least 3 significant coronavirus variants have been identified around the world. 2 of them already have a toehold in our country. Rafi Boudjikanian is tracking this story tonight.
From the variant first detected in the UK in this long-term care home in Barrie, Ontario, to that one and the variant first seen in South Africa, present in Alberta, including a case that does not appear travel-related.
Let me be blunt. This now is very concerning.
The COVID-19 variants are in Canada. One study out of Simon Fraser University says with its higher transmission rates, the variant first found in the UK could be especially dangerous, potentially 20,000 cases per day by March, if no further measures are taken by then. Its authors say governments should act now.
Defining non-essential travel and really limiting it, so reducing the number of international travelers coming back into Canada or coming into Canada. Making sure when people do come that we're a bit stricter about what we ask people to do. Right now we ask people to isolate at home. Household members aren't asked to isolate.
But no new restrictions yet from Ottawa.
Because we already have some of the strongest measures anywhere, one just has to remember that we are reliant on supply chains from around the world.
Some provinces are taking steps. Quebec Provincial Police will make sure returning international travelers respect their quarantine. Like others, that province wants more from Ottawa.
It's time to act. We can either ban non-essential travels or isolate travelers in hotels.
We are going to amend our public health orders to ensure that anyone returning to Manitoba, including Western Canada, must self-isolate for a period of 14 days.
Alberta says not a bad idea, but it won't follow suit just yet.
And this is something that can remind us all that traveling outside of our home province right now is not something we should be doing unless for essential purposes.
Rafi Boudjikanian reporting tonight. All right, joining us now is Sally Otto. She's part of BC's provincial modeling team involved in the variant modeling release that we just saw today by SFU. Sally, thanks for speaking with us tonight. First of all, these provincial projections on the variants seem very worrying.
Absolutely. The data that we're getting from the United Kingdom shows a really strong transmission advantage of about 50% for this new variant. And the data is compiled from every test that is taken there. So over 300,000 individuals have been typed with either the new variant or the old variant.
So if I'm reading it correctly, your research assumes a 40% higher transmission rate for the variant, but I think some research has found it could be as much as 80% higher?
That's right. The confidence intervals are between 40 and 80%. And of course, it depends on exactly what we do in the circumstances, and we don't really know the environments in which this is more transmissible. So for now, we have to just assume that we're going to see a similar sort of between 40 and 80% increase in transmission. And consequently, we have to reduce our interactions and reduce our exposure that much in order to bend the curve once this variant is here.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. I mean, how much more restrictive would the provincial orders need to be based on all those numbers to actually make a difference?
Yeah, well, we're talking about having to, go down by another 30 to 50% in our interactions with each other and then with the exposure, so that we can keep the numbers of new transmission events down. We've bent the curve before. I think that this is doable, but the best possibility is for us to prevent it from spreading within the province, reducing travel, trying to identify those places where there may be cases, and then really isolating those individuals and contacting their contacts and the contacts of their contacts, so that we can put a little barrier around them and prevent spread.
So, I mean, if you look at today's numbers, 407 new cases, a chunk of those presumably will be variant cases. Is that the way we're looking at it? And then the fear, the concern that it just continues to escalate?
It is hard to tell right now in British Columbia. In Ontario, for sure, there is circulation in the community. Here, many of the cases have been linked to travelers, and the ones that have not, we don't know how widespread they are. So I don't know, it could have just been somebody that had a contact with a traveler, but they never spread it to anybody, then we're fine. But if they have spread it to somebody and the person that traveled spread it to more people, that's the thing, that there's so much unknown at this moment, because we aren't typing everybody. So we don't really know how widespread this is in British Columbia.
Okay, I want to ask you, with respect to these variants, how much can we rely on the vaccines that have been approved so far?
Well, that's the good news. So far, there were recent results from Moderna and early results from Pfizer suggesting that people should be just fine with these new variants, with those two RNA viruses. So that's good news. There's a slightly reduced efficacy against the South African virus, but not so far reduced that they're worried about it not working.
All right. Thanks for helping us understand these numbers. We appreciate your time tonight, Sally. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, a shortage of the UK's AstraZeneca vaccine has the EU threatening to restrict its vaccine exports.
As Renee Filipponi tells us, Canada is now warily watching a situation developing overseas.
Violence in the Netherlands by anti-COVID curfew rioters labeled by authorities as criminals. But there is anger simmering across Europe about its COVID response and struggling vaccine rollout. The concerns were made worse when vaccine manufacturer AstraZeneca revealed it is having a major supply chain problem. That vaccine is primarily made in the UK and is days away from being approved in Europe.
Europe invested billions to help develop the world's first COVID-19 vaccines, to create a truly global common good. And now the companies must deliver.
The European target is to vaccinate 70% of its population by the summer. The EU is relying on the AstraZeneca vaccine to get it done. And now the EU is warning there could be restrictions on exports of European-made vaccines, like the one by Pfizer-BioNTech. It's not about EU first, it's about Europe's fair share, says the German health minister. This move is seen as a direct hit at post-Brexit Britain, who were the first to start vaccinating and have now inoculated 5 times more people per capita than Europe.
Obviously, we expect and hope that our EU friends will honour all contracts.
This back and forth is raising concerns with the WHO.
Vaccine nationalism might serve short-term political goals, but it's in every nation's own interest to support vaccine equity.
The urgency to vaccinate people in the UK couldn't be more dire, as the death count surpassed 100,000 today, and the government expects a lot more in the coming weeks before the effects of the vaccine are felt. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
A wake-up call tonight for Canada's beauty industry. New findings say racial bias is still very much a problem. What consumers are saying coming up.
And at 6:43 on this Tuesday evening, you're looking at a live shot downtown Vancouver. A dry day on the south coast. The sun even popped out for a bit. But guess what? The rain is returning. Johanna will tell us when next.
good day to be Indigenous.
Kwe, Washe, Indigenous Cosmet. I'm from the Algonquins of Barrier Lake. This is my ring.
His team stopped playing together in November. We decided to build an outdoor rink so to pass the time during the pandemic. So every day after school, they've been practicing hockey since they had no access to the arenas or the local rinks. To be able for him to go outside and practice the sport he loves, it's been great, and he's an active kid.
I've been playing hockey since I was 4 years old, and I love taking slap shots.
The move is I'll explain it a bit. It's called the Michigan. A lot of NHLers have done it now. A lot of leagues are starting to do it, so kids want to try it, and I think this little guy has perfected it for quite a bit now. I believe for a lot of First Nations kids, they know the link between hockey and the tradition. There's a huge link between the sport and the rich history of Indigenous people in Canada.
During this COVID time, do everything you can to keep your children and cook them safe. Miigwech.
Market Report is brought to you by Fortis BC. We've got even bigger rebates.
Rebate.
Whoa! On select high-efficiency equipment for business, but only for a limited time.
Well, the beauty business is in for a reckoning. A recent study by cosmetics giant Sephora has found racial bias is a factor across the retail industry.
Jacqueline Hansen spoke to Canadians who say acknowledging it is way overdue.
Tomi Belai Curtis is a model turned makeup creator.
When I would show up to shoots, I was expected to bring some of my makeup with me. The makeup artist wouldn't quite know what to do on my skin.
She founded Makeup for Melanin Girls 5 years ago, first as an online community to talk about which products would work, then as her own brand of eyeshadows, lip products, and more that pop on darker skin tones.
When I first started my business, the feedback I would get in general was that there's no problem. Like, Black customers aren't treated differently. Black customers don't need a separate product.
But a new study commissioned by beauty giant Sephora shows racial bias in retail persists. It surveyed shoppers across the U.S. retail industry and found nearly 4 in 5 felt there was a lack of brands owned by or made for people of color. 3 in 5 had experienced discriminatory treatment. 2 in 5 said it was based on the color of their skin. Shoppers who were Black, Indigenous, and other people of color reported being watched or followed, and reported dressing nicely or leaving bags at home to avoid being mistreated or accused of theft.
There's a belief that racialized customers are poor, that racialized customers are thieves, and that consumer racial profiling actually works.
Those myths and biases exist in Canada as well. To combat them, the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission helped develop a free online course for retailers and their employees.
There is a significant amount of work left to be done on consumer racial profiling. And because racism is still rampant in our society, we will find it in our retail stores.
Sephora Canada says the recent U.S. survey findings will further inform changes here coming this spring.
It's an opportunity for us to take that research and really start to see what things are transferable to the Canadian marketplace.
9 teams are looking into areas for change, from employee training to diversity in hiring and brands. For Belai Curtis, seeing change in her industry is encouraging, but also surprising after her ideas for inclusive products had been ignored by many.
It's kind of surreal now to see so much attention being brought to diversity and inclusion in beauty.
She hopes it's not superficial. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe is here now with the forecast. Apparently, Mike keeps getting after me because yesterday I called it good snow. Are we going to get any good snow?
It was good snow. It stayed up on the mountains where it belongs, right?
No, good snow is right down here. So are we getting any good snow, I guess?
I like this rivalry, yes. Good for Mike, and the Mike followers is above 200 meters, and Anita, snow lover fans, below 200 meters. Okay, here's the tie-breaking answer. It's going to be above. So sorry, Anita, and Mike, this one's for you. Yeah, we do have some snow on the way for parts of Metro Vancouver, not everyone, but a little system clipping us. It's going to bring us couple centimeters. Let me start off with the current temperatures across the country because there's a few wintry stories going on. We're hanging on to a 5 right now at YVR. Look at those temperatures right now across parts of the prairies. It is a -28 in Winnipeg. Extreme cold alerts in effect for wind chills of -40. Meanwhile, Toronto getting a fresh 10 to 15 centimeters as we speak. Snow is falling, hanging out of the freezing mark in Atlantic Canada. Okay, here's that low pressure system bringing us the snow overnight. It is also bringing a good couple centimeters to places like Kelowna and Cranbrook. You can see that blue showing up overnight into Wednesday as that low sinks south of us. We'll also catch a bit of a break Thursday, but not before one final swing of moisture. So a couple of on and off branches of that low pressure system bringing us some moisture. Not much as far as accumulation. Again, I think this model overplaying it. Most of us will just see that cold rain overnight, but there is a chance for the commute tomorrow. A couple centimeters on the ground, not out of the question. Temperatures will be staying above 0 for us, but again, not out of the question. Some higher elevations through the morning hours before things dry out. -1 and through Kelowna tomorrow, -11 up towards Prince George and the Peace and the rest of the central interior. Your wind chills tomorrow morning will be around the -25 to -30 range. So heads up, it's one of the coldest mornings yet in through that part of the province. Prince Rupert, looking good. You deserve it. Central and northern coastal sections in Haida Gwaii. Nice little sunny break continues with a northwesterly flow. Okay, breaking down our week forecast. So again, some wet wintry snow overnight possible, accumulating for higher elevations. Temperatures end up around a 4 tomorrow. Thursday, I think most of the rain is in through the morning hours. We might actually see some clearing towards the end of the day. And Friday, not looking too shabby. We've got a mix of sun and cloud to close out the week. And hopefully we can enjoy these little breaks between systems because I see a very wet and warm weekend ahead. Looks like we get back to some of our earlier winter weather. We return to the soggy stuff for Saturday.
Oh, well, it is winter on the West Coast.
It is winter in the West Coast, yes.
Yes.
We're holding up
Jenga.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Coming up, watch as Mike and I try to beat out a 12-year-old BC boy who has just smashed a Guinness World Record. How did he do it, and why we probably have no chance of competing? Coming up.
Very detailed sketches of the equipment, the tanks.
Debbie Buell looks through her father's sketchbooks. She says her dad, Athol Buell, had a passion for the Second World War, and especially any island connections to the war.
He just kept drawing every day, and he would try to make sure that he drew the people that were involved. Even before he was a teenager, he was always drawing everywhere he went.
Athol Buell died 12 years ago. His daughter wants to make sure his sketches live on. She knows these sketchbooks will eventually break down, so she asked UPEI to help preserve his work.
I got in touch with UPEI, and of course with the World Wide Web. You know, you can do so many things these days. He was so talented, so it's very nice to be able to share with everybody.
Staff at the UPEI library scanned the books into a digital historical archive called Island Lives. It's a collection that focuses on community history and recording personal stories. This librarian says Athol Buell's work is an important part of PEI's history.
A lot of the drawings, especially the ones of some of the people he talks about, are quite lifelike, but you can still tell very much it's a sketch, so there's like kind of a really nice artistic quality to a lot of them.
She says the notes he made with the sketches are also valuable.
There are a number of PEI-related stories sort of sprinkled throughout some of the larger, more international historic figures and events that he sketches about. And it's a way of kind of preserving some of those island stories.
Anyone in the world can now see Buell's work on islandlives.ca. Debbie Buell believes her dad would have been thrilled to know his artwork is now preserved and available for so many to enjoy.
I wanted to do something special for my son and make rounded curves and real boards. So this is how everything laid out. This idea was just really for show and for him to have fun, I guess, and pretend like he's doing the Zamboni. He likes it. He can actually maneuver around and get it all done if he wants to, if a 5-year-old wants to. He knows he needs a good ice surface after for the next morning or next day. So he enjoys that. One of my friends shared a link with me to join a group. It's all people like us that builds rink for their kids, and we take advice and we share the stories and pictures and all that, building it, right? So I put that video on there, and it led to an Instagram post that wanted it. They asked me for permission, and then everything else went after. So TikTok, NHL, TSN. He ran to his mother, and he thought it was pretty cool. So.
Fun.
He thought it was fun. Yeah, he really thought it was fun and cool. He wants to play in the NHL for the Vegas Knights.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
CBC is proud to sponsor the 27th annual online Victoria Film Festival, Vancouver Island's largest and longest-running film fest. Get your tickets today at victoriafilmfestival.com. And never miss a special programming series or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
Well, a salmon arm boy has landed himself in the Guinness World Record books.
Yeah, big deal. He's going down tonight because we're taking him on. He did this, of course, by balancing the most Jenga blocks on one single vertical block. Yeah, back in November, 12-year-old Alden Maxwell set a new blockbuster record by putting 693 Jenga blocks on top of one single vertical wooden brick. I'm distracted. Just this last Friday, he received the email recognition from the reference book publisher for his achievement.
All those blocks add up to 13 Jenga sets of 54 bricks each. Took hours of practice, of course, and 3 failed attempts to smash the record set by an Arizona man who placed 485 Jenga blocks on an upright brick in July of 2020. How's it going, Mike?
I'm a little nervous. It's going okay, actually.
I think I'm safe to say I'm beating you.
Well, you apparently did some research into how to do it before starting.
Just got to get into the groove. I'm feeling this. I think I can get to 600.
Okay, well, it could be a long night.
Need
We'll
a few more
document it, though,
Jenga
because
sets.
it's all going to be on camera. Oh, well done. You're doing really well. That's fantastic.
Just trying to go fast.
All right.
Come on.
Well, we will eventually have to make way for Dan Burrett, because he's going to be in here at 11 o'clock.
Ooh!
Oh, dear. What a shame. Huh. Dan will be in here at 11 o'clock after the National to pick up where we left off on Jenga.
He's yelling in the background. He's going to try it next tonight.
Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
Good night.